listeners, and welcome to another episode of Extra Extra. It's all about whiskey. I'm your host, the Whiskey Wizard, Jason Johnson Yellen. Before I introduce the Whiskey Cherub, Joshua Hatton, I have to say we're going to start hearing this in future episodes of the podcast. But Lee Atwood, a week or so ago, when you and I were having a meeting with him, cracked the code on Dramgolf.
Dramgolf. It's the perfect nickname. It was so obvious. It's been there the whole time. And
Dramgolf.
It took someone from down there to bring it to our attention.
Well, he's closer to Hobbiton than any of us up here.
That makes really good sense. Oh my gosh. He's like, here you go. Take this nickname. Fly, you fools. And here we are. Yep.
See? You shall not pass the Dutchie on the left-hand side. 80s Blue Peter viewers are loving that. So, in Extra Extra, you and I, you or I, depending on whose turn it is, bring a whiskey news article to the attention of the other. Mm-hmm. And we read it in the first half, we riff on it in the second half, and we try to get out of here in a tight 30, a tight 35. Regular listeners, just like my wife, will be laughing away as they know a tight 30, 35 is almost impossible for us. But we do our best every time, Joshua. We try, damn it.
I would say 60% of the time, it works every time.
100%. Yeah. So today's article, I am responsible for bringing the article to you. Mm-hmm. I have to apologize if I sound distracted at any point. This article comes from Newsweek online, and it has more things moving in my line of vision than I am really comfortable with. And so I've got an ad for a knife. I've got an ad for, I don't even know what it is. It says log everything. I don't know, a laxative. And, I've got video, moving. There's a lot happening here. Yeah. So if I start to wander away, I do apologize. The article is entitled, Illinois to record $1 billion marijuana sales by year's end, surpassing liquor. And this was authored by Benjamin Fearnow. And I have to say, we had Zach Johnston as an author a few weeks ago, and we riffed on him being my cousin. I can tell you Benjamin Fearnow is neither my cousin nor anybody's cousin.
No, I knew someone named Fear later. But this guy he seems to be a bit more proactive, right? Which I
and there was a famous brand in the 90s called No Fear. And so I wonder if that was a riff. But here we go. Yeah. So the article is oh my goodness, the commercial, the ads for the knives and all that are not going away. They're scrolling with me.
I'm going to buy
Newsweek,
knives.
Newsweek, if you're listening. I just got a warning from my laptop. This webpage is using significant energy. Closing it may improve the responsiveness of your Mac. So thanks for that, Newsweek. You've got a button about becoming a subscriber. That will not be happening. Good luck and Godspeed. Illinois is set to record more than $1 billion in sales of adult-use marijuana products this year, with first quarter cannabis tax revenue already surpassing that of alcohol. The state of Illinois, whose lawmakers are eyeing bankruptcy options amid a huge budget deficit, generated more than $86 million from adult-use marijuana tax revenue between January and March 2021.
Just a quick pause there. Between January and March of a single year, they've already generated $86 million in tax revenue.
That's a good few months.
That's a good few months. Wow.
Pretty tidy.
Yeah.
For an entire state. Yep. Illinois received $72 million in revenue from liquor sales. And think about traditionally how many more people are using legal liquor over using legal marijuana, right? I don't know marijuana consumption numbers, but I would posit that there are more legal liquor users than legal cannabis users.
Maybe the article will enlighten us.
The state has repeatedly broken its own monthly weed sales records. I love the fact this opened up with adult use marijuana products. And by paragraph 2, we're on to weed sales.
I know. I'm just waiting for them to talk about spliffs and fatties.
Doobies. Do you think Mr. Fear Now is going to throw some fatties and doobies?
Do you know how much grass they sell in Illinois? It's a lot of grass. Anyway, please continue. We'll riff later. You continue.
Dime bags. Do you know how many dime bags that is?
Derek knows. Anyway.
With both in and out of state adult sales hitting $28 million in March alone. During the last quarter, the State Department of Revenue took in more tax dollars from marijuana receipts than alcohol for the first time ever. Adults spent nearly $110 million on recreational cannabis products during just the month of March.
Amazing.
Single doobie nation?
Single doobie nation. SDN.
Should Illinois sales of marijuana and cannabis products continue at this rate, the state is set to surpass $1 billion in adult sales by the end of 2021.
If we kept it single cannabis nation, then we can stick with the SCN.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But then do we want to limit ourselves just to cannabis?
Continue.
Single cocaine nation works as well.
Oh, Jesus.
That's obviously not
gosh.
legal. Obviously not legal. Just to be clear. Obviously not legal. It's a gateway. Recent data from the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, which oversees dispensary licensing, shows consumers are spending around $3.5 million each day on adult use cannabis products. I love this article so far. As someone who used to teach writing, it's been interesting that Fear Now has hit us with the yearly number to get our attention, right? We're on the clickbaity Newsweek site. He's got our attention. He's followed up that yearly projection with monthly numbers, just to show that, this projection came from somewhere. And because he's having so much success, he's now telling us each day, right? He's successfully divided his monthly numbers by 30 to give us an each day. Now I'm waiting on the next paragraph being every hour, because he's successfully divided each day by 24 hours.
Really quickly, and I know we're meant to be riffing later on, but I remember hearing, in a similar vein, I remember hearing one time hourly how many full 53-foot trucks were leaving Tito's, filled with Tito's, to go out into the world. And the number was absolutely staggering. So if Fear Now comes back with that type of number, I actually want to see it. I think, because these numbers are huge, right? They really are huge. And so I know you're poking some fun here and there, but I kind of like seeing it being broken down like that.
So let me just say, if Fear Now doesn't do it, dear listener, go ahead and divide 3.5 million by 24, and you will know how much is being spent each hour in the state of Illinois.
Fear not. If Fear No doesn't do it, Fear Now doesn't do it.
I wasn't even trying. I wasn't even trying.
That was tenuous. Anyway, continue.
And so Fear Now says, if that trend continues, Illinois dispensaries are set to surpass $1.5 billion worth of cannabis sales this year.
Amazing.
Okay, I know you're enjoying the breakdown. I'm ready for some new information, maybe some quotes. So let's see if Fear Now delivers. The budget boon has prompted comments from neighbouring state politicians, including Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, who remarked last week, frankly, I'm kind of tired of talking to the governor of Illinois. He thanks me for having Wisconsinites cross the border to buy marijuana, which we all know is illegal.
It's 100% illegal, but I get it, right? I live in Connecticut, and I'm surrounded by states that sell legal cannabis. The number of Connecticutians that go to Massachusetts to buy, I'm told, is pretty big. And now New York is going to be doing legal marijuana, right? And Connecticut, Wisconsin, all these neighboring states are losing out on tax revenue. We're looking at these numbers. Continue. Yeah, sorry.
We'll circle back in the second half. There's no doubt about that. Yep. Last year, Illinois sold $670 million worth of marijuana-related products within state lines, pulling in about $205 million in total tax revenue. Mm-hmm. This comes as both the city of Chicago and the state eyes bankruptcy options and faces at least $140 million in unfunded pension liability.
Read that line again. Read that line again.
This comes as both the city of Chicago and the state eyes bankruptcy options and faces at least $140 billion with a B dollars in unfunded pension liability. Mm-hmm. The list continues, but I'll pause there. What was your point?
My point was that you said 140 million, not 140 billion.
Oh, did I say million there?
Yes, you did.
Oh, gosh. Well, pull out the sharks with lasers because it is billion. So there are 140 billion in unfunded pension liability, 50 billion with a B in unexpected retiree healthcare costs, and about 3 billion with a B in federal pandemic loans, and several billions more in unpaid costs. Mm-hmm. They're hurting. And while we're talking about, they're bringing in some good tax revenue from marijuana, what a drop in the ocean that is.
Indeed.
Maybe I should say a drop in the lake for our friends in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
The government finance watchdog group Truth in Accounting gave the city of Chicago's government an F for its financial health rating in a February report card. But the state has repeatedly sought to exhibit that the marijuana revenue is being put to good use, including the Restore, Reinvest and Renew program, which allocates 25% of these tax dollars to communities most harmed by the ongoing war on drugs. The program allows for legal aid, youth development programs, and business incentives for disadvantaged neighborhoods. Illinois Department of Revenue records for the fiscal year 2021 show adult use cannabis brought $13.9 million into the state comptrollers. That's one of my favourite words because it's clearly the word controller, but with an M and a P in it. I just love that so much.
Yeah,
such a good word.
And I hate that word so much because it's clearly controller, and they decided to put a little they just gave that word a monocle. Right, and now all of a sudden it's fancy. No, it's control.
Oh, that is such a good observation. And so the records show adult use cannabis brought $13.9 million into the state comptroller's office in July 2020 before reaching $30.4 million this past January. New York State, you were mentioning them a moment ago, Joshua. New York State, which legalized cannabis for adult recreational use in March, issued a report which showed it expects $20 million in marijuana tax revenue for fiscal year 21-22. Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli announced recently that the state hopes to increase that to $245 million by 2024-25. And then there's a quote, as the state's economic recovery continues, tax collections have surpassed expectations and forecasts have improved, the report reads. In addition, the state will also benefit from it's hard for me to read it like that. Standard procedure is anhistoric, but in addition, the state will also benefit from a historic amount of federal aid and new revenues from tax increases, the legalization of recreational marijuana, and online sports betting, totaling an estimated $26.7 billion in SFY. Is that state financial year?
I think
21,
so. Yeah.
22. Newsweek reached out to Illinois State Department of Revenue for additional remarks Monday afternoon.
And that's where it ends, right? So
That's how it ends.
Yeah, okay. So there you go.
Oh,
and when was
yeah.
this from? That was from March 3rd.
May 5th.
Why did I say? Oh, I don't know. I said March 3rd. May 5th makes more sense.
It's 5-3. You read it in reverse. You read it as a British date.
I did.
Look at this. This Newsweek article has comments on it. It has 9 comments.
Jason, never, ever, ever go to the comments section. You'll just be disappointed in people. No one ever has anything good to say. So
I'm not going to read any of those.
yeah.
Like on the podcast. I've definitely just read them for my own edification. So that's the article in the bag. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Fear now has done his worst. And we'll be back after this. I like an article like this because it shows that liquor isn't king, right? There are other interests, there are other directions in which consumers can spend their dollars, spend their budgets. One of the interesting things for me, and why I wanted to bring this to you, is I've got nothing against cannabis at all. I've got absolutely nothing against the legalization of it. I just grew up with cannabis being something illegal. And I've got such a mind block on, and again, as always, we're talking about pre-COVID times, but thinking about meeting up with friends to go to a bar to get a round of drinks in, right? Or to go out for a night and, drink a skinful, as we say in the southwest of Scotland, and take the zigzag path home. And in looking at these numbers and just the sheer sales and obviously the tax revenue coming from it, but I cannot get my head around going out, meeting my friends for a round of joints, right? And then smoking in a cafe, right, with friends and getting high and stoned. It's just a weird thing, and so seeing the sheer volume of sales, this is almost like this is all liquor. Yeah. But for cannabis, it's not really like you're going and you're sitting in and you're doing something. Although I guess these liquor numbers that they're comparing come from the same part of the year. Yeah. And so it's essentially takeout liquor numbers being compared to takeout cannabis numbers.
Correct. Right. Yeah. It's not.
It's all home use.
It's all home use
during COVID.
Right? There's no bars. There's no restaurants. Yes.
But even aside from the sales numbers here and the tax implications here and even the implications to liquor, do you have an easier time getting your head around the thought of going out with buddies to get high together as opposed to get a little bit buzzed on alcohol together?
No. At least here in the U.S., when people are purchasing marijuana, it's always for home use, right? It's not as if we're in Amsterdam where you can go out to a coffee shop and go out and get a, I think they call them blunts nowadays, maybe a fatty, right? If you're going to go to the cafe and get some grass and smoke it with your friends, but that is part of that culture, I guess. And you and I have been to Amsterdam together. You see that people go out, they get some coffee, they get a joint, they're having a conversation. I would equate that to going out with your friends and just getting a scotch on the rocks or just ordering a couple pints, and you're still getting together and you're still having that conversation. But the American approach to it is very different. You're not going out to have, let's go out to this coffee shop and get high together. That's not what you're doing. You may have some friends over and you're smoking together and having conversations, but you're not taking it outside.
So that raises an interesting point to my mind, which is we are only in the absolute infancy of cannabis sales then. We're not talking about a social structure around it. We're not talking about on-premise sales. We're not talking about, I mean, you and I kind of joked about it during the reading of the article here, but we're not talking about the edges of, call it connoisseurship, right? Where I think not even just liquor or whiskey and single casks, but coffee and single farm grown coffee, right?
Let me pause you there, though. As someone who has frequented a dispensary, when they are on offer, it's really simple.
Was
right?
it for your glaucoma?
It was for my glaucoma. It was for a girlfriend in a coma. I know, it's really serious. But, if you just go to any marijuana website and look at the different breeds that they have on sale, right? They're going to show you if you want a relaxing style, get this sativa. If you want something that's going to make you giggle and make you more energetic, try this indica. If you want something that kind of is a dual feeling, go for this hybrid. And then it goes even further in. It says, right, try this, I'm just going to make up a name, computer screen. And, it may say it'll have notes of lemon and apricot, right? And they want to talk about the flavors that you're getting from it.
Right. Wow. The tasting notes.
But I think in the end, I don't necessarily know if people are like going in there to understand the nose, palate, and finish of marijuana. They want to know, I want to feel such and such a way. While I'm getting from point A to point B, am I going to have something that tastes fruity? Am I going to have something that tastes like a skunk? Right? Am I okay with it tasting like a skunk because it's going to get me to this place that will help me just get rid of my anxiety, right? So I don't know that people are approaching it from, I want to smoke this because it's going to taste like lemons and apricots, Sure.
But you are seeing the parallels, though, between, and we covered this in an earlier extra during the pandemic, where it's the well-known brands that were moving off of shelves, products that would get you from A to B, and you might not be there swirling your Jack Daniels in a glass, saying, oh, I'm getting hints of caramel and vanilla. Instead, you're saying, couple of rocks, bit of Coke, down the hatch it goes. So there are some parallels there between what's moving out the doors for both liquor and marijuana.
100%. Oh, I see parallels for sure, because you're granted you're not going out to a bar or restaurant, but you're getting together with friends. You're lighting something up and you're having a conversation, right? There's no difference there. It's just, are you drinking or are you smoking? But I think, however, marijuana is unfortunate in that you can't really have that experience where you're tasting stuff and you're trying things out. Like modern marijuana, if you check out these dispensaries, I mean, they do have some lower THC if you want to play around, like THC content within the cannabis itself if you want to play around. But I don't think people are necessarily going to do that, right?
Makes me think of lower alcohol beers. Who's drinking lower alcohol beers and why?
Well, that's a good point. Actually, you know what, Jason? That's a really good point, because a lot of these lower THC offerings that they have will have a higher CBD offering. And I think that's a really important thing to point out, because while the states that have recreational marijuana, most of them started off with medicinal marijuana, there were a lot of people who I think should have access to medicinal marijuana but can't because of this regulation or that regulation. But now that they get it from a recreational standpoint, they can work with these quote-unquote bud tenders to say, hey, you know what? I've got gout. what's going to help me with that pain? I have anxiety because of A, B, and C. What's going to help me with that? And people, I think, and this is one of the things that I like about the idea of recreational marijuana, is that you can approach marijuana from the perspective of, I've got this going on, how will this help me? Or how will this other thing help me? And you have people to help you out. But with alcohol, it's quite different. You're not looking to alcohol for medicine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I've got a couple of things rattling around in my brain. Number one is seeing the rise of cannabis infused beverages, right? Where
are you talking CBD infused, THC infused?
THC infused beverages. That'll be interesting to see, where do those go on offer? Mm-hmm. Could you go into a cafe, or as you and I have done, can you go into a co-op and pick up a sandwich and some THC the way you would pick up a bottle of beer, something like that. I'm curious about seeing that show up. But all of this is leading me in one direction, which is, do you see cannabis and cannabis-related products competing for the attention of liquor consumers? We've got our base. People follow us, buy from us, Single Cask Nation, whiskey drinkers, rum, mezcal, other things. Do you think some people have been hanging out in the liquor category just waiting for the doors to open on the marijuana category, and they're going to jump ship? Do you think there's room for both? I'm curious here how you view the rise of one, and whether you think it will impact business as usual for us, essentially.
Well, for us, I don't think it will necessarily impact us, because we're so...
And for us, I just mean us as in the liquor industry.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't mean us Single Cask Nation.
Yeah. Right, or anyone within our category of independent bottlers, right? I think that it will most definitely affect segments of the spirits industry, right? Where if someone's just a Jack Daniel's drinker, mix it with Coke, it's just a drink to get you from point A to point B and hang around. There could be people after 16, 17 months in lockdown having gained 20, 30 pounds saying, what's a good way to get me back to the weight I was before the world ended? Well, stop drinking and smoke a joint, right? That's a good way to lower the amount of calories that you're taking in. So I think you can see things like that. I think the mere fact that you can just buy a little vape pen or something like that and just smoke, like it's almost concealed. People don't even know you're smoking. That's really convenient for people. And if people are feeling good after having a few puffs, will they buy a little less? I know people who have. There's no doubt about it. So I imagine that will happen on a scale. I just don't know if and how people are tracking it. However, having said that, they're going to track it by tax revenue, right? This is a perfect way to track, to see, like, yes, marijuana sales within Illinois, the tax revenue outpaced the taxes on alcohol, but what's the tax structure? Right? How does that differ? And then as you go on, in 2021 becomes 2022 and 2023, are your annual tax revenues on alcohol dipping while marijuana is escalating? Right? So it's going to take time, and I think that's likely the best way to track it. But it will be interesting to then break that down in segments. Is it vodka? Is it gin? Is it whiskey? Is it bourbon? And just really compartmentalize how it's affecting the spirits business.
Well, and thinking about flavored whiskies, thinking about hard seltzers, which is a huge category right now. You know, are consumers of those products more likely to jump ship to marijuana purchasing?
And that's what I'm saying. One of the beautiful things about our segment is people are coming, whether it's us or Duncan Taylor or Port Ascaig or what have you, Macallan, like even just, you know, a single malt brand. They're coming to these brands or our bottlings or our, you know, industry friends' bottlings because they're after flavor. They're not getting from point A to point B. They're chasing
Correct,
flavor. Yeah. And that's the difference there. Right? If you just want to get from point A to point B, again, just go pick up a bottle of Jack or go pick up some cheap vodka or something like that. You can always get from point A to point B. Are you in it for the flavor? Well, those customers, hopefully us and all of our friends within the industry will keep. Those that are just looking to get from point A to point B, those are your swing voters right there.
It's just funny, as you mentioned, swing voters. We just passed marijuana legalization in Virginia in the state legislature, and I think they're talking about the first dispensaries appearing in 2024.
Yeah, yep.
And so it's one of those where you're like, yay, great news. Oh, got to wait a long time for it. and then time will pass. I've enjoyed this. In my head, it has felt like a Saturday Night Live sketch where two middle-aged white men discuss the things the kids are getting up to on an NPR station, National Public Radio. And the fact that we got through this without any reference to sweaty balls has really surprised me.
And there it is.
Dear listener, you can reach out to us at questions@OneNationUnderWhiskey if you want to bring anything to our attention or have a comment. Other than that, we're going to try to keep this within the tight 30 to 35. We're going to get out of here. Really wanted to bring this topic up because it is something we are seeing, we are hearing about. I wanted to get us on the record here. So thanks for riffing on it with me, Joshua.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for bringing it to the table.
My pleasure, dear listener. Thanks, as always, for joining us and being with us. And we will be with you again in the future. Cheerio!
Frosted Flakes.